Welcome back, Canonites! With the next Halo Infinite technical preview, or flight, just around the corner, this week in fact, 343 have dropped a new Inside Infinite, going over how Big Team Battle, or BTB, has changed for Infinite and what fans can expect from it. We also dive into the Academy and Infinite's progression system, among other things. This issue features several people from the multiplayer team: Tom French, Multiplayer Associate Creative Director, Andrew Witz, Lead Multiplayer Designer, Senior Multiplayer Designers Fernando Reyes Medina, Patrick Wren, and David Ellis, Lead Multiplayer Level Designer Cale George, and Multiplayer Bots Designer Sarah Stern. Naturally, we start with Big Team Battle. Traditionally an 8v8 experience, Infinite will up those numbers to 12v12 while adding some new flair for the mode. Like with everything else 343 has covered in these articles, the multiplayer team came up with 3 central pillars for their design process. First, there's embracing the Spartan battle fantasy, which is essentially making a player feel empowered during a match. Part of developing this design pillar involved new systems like Pelican and weapon drops, the commander voiceover, and other yet-to-be-revealed dynamic events. Interestingly, later in the article, Patrick Wren talks about how players can, quote, get a cache of power by interacting with the map a whole new way with their personal AI, which may be one of those dynamic elements referred to. Regardless, I'm excited to see what that is. The second pillar is empowering player types to thrive, which is to ensure that different playstyles can thrive in the game's environment. To put it another way, the idea is to make sure everyone can feel like a hero in any match. Finally, unleash the Halo Infinite sandbox, which is exactly what it sounds like, and basically what the rest of the BTB section is all about. How changes to the BTB mode will allow players to fully unleash the power of Infinite's sandbox. When developing these pillars and the new BTB mode in general, the team sat down and looked at their memorable experiences from the BTB of past games, locking onto experiences first rather than specific features. A key part of the BTB experience, and really the matchmaking experience overall, is pace. Matches should have a steadily escalating pace as tension rises, culminating in a feeling of jubilation or fulfillment as the match comes to a close. While ensuring the pace was kept, 343 explored how to enhance an already beloved experience. One way was, of course, increasing the player count. After Warzone already gave people a sample of a bigger Battlefield experience, 343 felt they couldn't simply go back to the traditional 8v8, something I wholeheartedly agree with. Even back in Halo 5's days, I was terribly disappointed when it was announced that BTB would still be 8v8, even after Warzone had been revealed as a 12v12 mode. In addition to the precedent set by Warzone, there has been a community-driven desire for a bigger BTB for a long time, and 12v12 seems a perfect place to start, increasing the total player count by an additional 50% while, as the designers reveal, avoiding messing with the pace of the game. Another method was the new vehicle system. Rather than players starting out with a sandbox of vehicles at their bases, they'll start with some more standard vehicles, with more and more powerful and versatile vehicles dropping in via Pelican as the match goes on. This of course culminates with heavy vehicles like tanks and seems to be a great way to preserve the classic pacing of traditional BTB. That said, as I have expressed in the past, I do hope that there are ways for fans to create a more traditional BTB experience if they want, i.e. starting the match with tanks and other vehicles spawned at each other's bases or just across the map. That sadly may need to wait for Forge to come to the game to really be realized, but so long as it's a consideration, I'll be happy. The new BTB looks great, I just don't want to lose any options we don't have to lose. With Halo Infinite being a live service game, this became another point of consideration for the design team. Essentially, how do they future-proof their maps? Systems like weapon racks and grenade, vehicle, and equipment pads will allow 343 to shake up content or more quickly inject new content into maps as the game evolves over time, which isn't to say these changes won't be stress tested before being implemented. And of course, the team emphasizes its commitment to listening and responding to community feedback. The BTB section then wraps up with the team sharing some memorable moments from BTB playtesting for Infinite, and I have to recommend reading some of these yourself if you want to hear some amazing clutch moments. Though I suppose we won't have to wait too long to experience those ourselves. One moment that particularly stood out to me though was from Patrick Wren, where it sounds like he was able to use the repulsor to deflect or mess with an enemy Razorback that was headed towards him. I'm really eager to try that out for myself in the next flight, just really see what the repulsor can do. From there, the article switches gears to focus on the Academy, a new mode we've gotten a few details on before, but nothing quite like this. Academy is a place for players to experience the Halo sandbox in a controlled setting. And like with everything else, there are design pillars and goals for this mode. First, give players a way to learn about maps and systems without the fear of being shot at in the face by players. Second, provide tools to learn core mechanics and provide pathways to mastery through crafted, fun, replayable, bite-sized experiences. And finally, give context for the MP Spartan within the greater Halo canon. The first two are pretty straightforward and basically summarize the purpose of the Academy as a whole. Coming into a game, and especially a franchise, so many years after its inception can be intimidating, especially for a game as unique as Halo among the FPS genre. In addition though, the Academy will seemingly be the start of our multiplayer Spartan's journey into and through the canon, something Joe Staten teased a while back. Here, however, Tom French emphasizes how the team wanted to make sure the players understood how cool Spartans are overall, how important they are to the overall universe beyond the Master Chief. In the previous tech preview, we got to sample the Academy's weapon drills, but this is only one part of the mode's total offering. In addition, there will be a tutorial mode, essentially a mini-mission to train players in Halo's basic mechanics, while also introducing Spartan Commander Agrena, the Johnson Academy of Military Science in the world of Halo Infinite, and training mode, which will be an even more player-controlled experience. Having started as a simple 1v1 bot experience, the final version allows players to load up maps, select their loadout and settings, and spawn in bots, all for the sake of training and acclimating to the game. We'll get a look at this mode in the upcoming flight. Like with everything Infinite we've discussed, launch is just the beginning for Academy. 343 have already talked about potential for new drills post-launch, such as vehicle and equipment drills. In addition, they're looking into more customizable bots, toggling certain behaviors on and off such as grenade throwing, allowing players to invite friends to training mode matches, new weapon drills as new weapons are added, and more. The Academy is something I think Halo has needed for a while, and I look forward to seeing its success upon and after launch. But from there, we switch gears to dive into player progression, challenges, and customization. There has been a lot said and speculated on in regards to these features, especially recently, and here 343 takes the opportunity to clarify certain details. Starting off with progression, at launch, the only progression will be the Battle Pass. At 100 tiers, the pass will include free and paid rewards and will never expire. The content of the pass will be a mix of armor pieces and coatings, along with consumables, i.e. XP boosts and challenge swaps. We'll talk about those more later. Each tier will require the same amount of XP to unlock, which I'm very excited to hear. The XP grind for Halo 5 and Reach were just insane, and I'm glad to never have to think about those again. And on the subject of XP, you will only earn XP by completing challenges, something we'll dive into more in a moment. For now, however, this is simply how things will work at launch, though 343 are looking at how they can address community desires for per-match XP and a non-Battle Pass related progression system a la Halo Reach, Halo 4, or Halo 5. The last thing the article covers in this section are special event passes. These will be time-limited and free to all players. While there will be a number of these special events, the one we're currently familiar with is Fracture Tenrai, which is how players will unlock the Yoroi armor core. This specific event will be available 1 week per month of Season 1, so 3 weeks in total. The event pass will feature 20 tiers of rewards, and progress will carry over week to week. Other events will be available for 1 or multiple weeks during a season, including weekends. Later on, 343 emphasize a pillar of player customization called Single Reward Vectors. This essentially means that cosmetic unlocks are only available to unlock through a single avenue. So anything from the Battle Pass won't be available elsewhere, and time-limited events like Fracture's armors won't be purchasable or unlockable via any other methods. So when you unlock that sweet samurai armor, it will be known that you had to earn it. The one potential exception to this will be content tied to specific promotions or partnerships, which may be broadly released at a later date. So if you missed out on those Monster Energy skins, there may be an opportunity to get them later on. Incidentally, 343 actually lists off all the ways you'll be able to earn customization content in the final game, which you can read on screen now. I'm not going to read them all off, but of those, there are a couple that I'm weary of. First off, skill ranks. I'd hate for cool armor or skins to be locked behind skill based on my experience with MCC. Granted, MCC's low population makes finding balanced matches, and thus ranking up, somewhat difficult, something I doubt Halo Infinite will have much of a problem with at first, and probably not for a long while. The second, though, is Game Pass Ultimate perks. I'm not a fan of any content being locked behind Game Pass. I don't care what it is, this should not be an avenue for earning customization on any level. The whole idea is kinda sleazy in my opinion. What about being part of Game Pass should give me any sort of reward for a game? I'd rather 343 drop this reward vector entirely, but since that probably isn't going to happen, I hope that it's little more than a nameplate or something. Those 2 points aside, I do like what 343 are doing for progression and unlocks. One thing I would like to see, however, is for time-limited armors to cycle back through after a while. Like, for example, a year or something after the game launches, bring back opportunities to unlock Yoroi armor for players who might have just jumped into the game. A big point of positivity for Infinite was that the Battle Pass wouldn't feed off a player's fear of missing out, and I feel that should extend to armors and rewards like Yoroi. What matters with these armors should be how you earn them, not when. Allowing them to be unlocked again in the future would not devalue the armors at all. With that, we jump into our final main topic for today, the new challenge system. There will be daily and weekly challenges, all of which are meant to be fairly straightforward and avoid interfering with match objectives, a concern I've highlighted before. Starting with daily challenges, these will come in 3 tiers, starting with an easy tier. From a pool of challenges, players will go through the easy ones, often simple stuff like play any match, including bot matches. Once the first tier of challenges are complete, they'll move on to a second, more difficult tier. These will offer more XP, but also no longer allow bot matches to count towards completion. Finally, a third tier will be unlocked, focusing on winning matches for even more XP. At the end of the day, everything resets. Now, there is potential for challenges to run out, something not too dissimilar from Halo Reach's daily XP cap, though 343 are anticipating that it would take 16 to 18 hours to complete all challenges in a day. I can imagine some grinders and skilled players will be able to complete them much quicker, but the fact that these challenges focus so much on simply playing and eventually winning matches gives me a lot of hope. I'll reserve final judgment for the flight and final game, but I'm really liking this system on paper. Ever since Halo moved towards giving players a ton of XP at the end of matches with Halo Reach, a lot of people have been highlighting the issues of such a system, how they can promote non-cooperative gameplay since players don't really need to focus on winning to earn their XP. With Infinite, it seems like 343 are trying to reach a middle ground of sorts between more recent XP-rich experiences and something like Halo 3's beloved system where the only way to gain XP was to win matches. Again, I need to see how this works in the final game to really judge it, but I'm liking what I'm reading as far as daily challenges go. But in addition to dailies, players will have weekly challenges. These will be a bit more focused, such as complete a stronghold match or kill an enemy driver of a moving vehicle with a sniper rifle in PvP. These are the ones I'm far more concerned about, as targeted challenges like this can negatively impact the PvP experience. If someone has a challenge saying they need rocket launcher kills, they're potentially going to redirect their efforts towards the challenge rather than the objective of the match. This is what happened in Halo Reach and Halo 4 with their commendation systems and rewards tied to those. Now granted, commendations were much more long-term and kinda larger in scope, so my concerns could be completely unfounded. We'll have to see how the final game goes. Anyway, each week, players will have a pool of 20 challenges to work on. These are randomly selected from a pool of hundreds. Like with daily challenges, weeklies are given different rating tiers, some easier, some more difficult. While each player potentially has different challenges to accomplish, the total XP one can earn will be the same across the board. Weekly challenges can be worked on 3 at a time, though players will be given a 4th challenge slot if they buy a battle pass. You can see a mock-up of this on screen now. When all 20 weekly challenges are complete, an ultimate challenge known as a capstone will become available, which will reward a unique coating or emblem. I'm not so sure how I feel about this part, but so long as the ultimate rewards are regularly cycling through, I don't see much of an issue beyond what I've already discussed. The last item we have to discuss today, in relation to progression at least, are XP boosts and challenge swaps. As we've discussed before, XP boosts provide double XP for any challenges, weekly or daily, completed during its activation. At the moment, that's 30 minutes in real time, though 343 are exploring ways to limit that time to time spent in matches. XP boosts can be earned from the battle or event passes, purchased from the store, or unlocked as part of a promotion or partnership. Challenge swaps are another feature of Infinite, allowing players to swap out weekly challenges if needed. When used, an existing weekly challenge will be swapped out for one from the same difficulty tier and offering the same XP reward. So you can't use them to make grinding easier or get more rewards. Challenge swaps can be earned in the same manner as XP boosts. That wraps up the main body of the latest Inside Infinite, leaving us with Tales from the Trenches and an overview of the next technical preview, or flight. Graphics engineer Keegan Jones shares a hilarious tale of how firing the Needler caused multiplayer matches to crash, and graphics producer Alex Leboulicou detailed the harrowing process of how 343 had to figure out how to safely and diligently review the game before launch, i.e. the story of how the in-studio testing came together. If you aren't familiar, this was one of the talking points of the August development update. Closing out this latest issue of Inside Infinite is an overview of the upcoming tech preview, or flight. The upcoming flight, which will begin formally this Thursday, will primarily target testing of online services at a large scale. As such, play sessions will be much more controlled, only available at specific times over the next 2 weekends. Each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will have matchmaking windows from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Time. That's 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. While these windows, especially that latter one, aren't great for international fans, they are chosen because 343 is ultimately located on the Pacific Coast, and they have to time these according to their own schedules. The weekend of September 23rd through the 27th will feature 4v4 Arena, and the weekend of September 30th through October 4th will feature Arena and Big Team Battle. During each flight period, training mode and weapon drills will be available at all times, while matchmaking will only be available at the previously specified times and days. And as noted by 343, the Halo Insider site, where people can report bugs and issues, will close down on Wednesday, October 6th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 days after the flight ends, allowing players more time to file reports. And be sure to file those reports. And prior to the flight going live, 343 will host a live stream preview of the flight tomorrow, the 22nd, on Twitch and YouTube. A detailed blog will also post tomorrow, going over the full offerings of this next flight. And assuming I can actually play this time, expect some live streams from yours truly. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to take a look at a couple new renders included with today's issue, plus a couple of amazing pieces of concept art. First, we got a render of the multiplayer flag, which, while we've seen this before, I only just noticed the skull at the top of the flag, which I find to be adorable. Just wanted to point that out and give my praise to the people that designed it and brought it to life. Next, and perhaps more exciting for most people, is a render of the shock rifle, our first full render of it. There's not a ton to say at the moment, but damn does it look good. And I have to note, only while writing this did I see just how similar its design is to the Brute Shot, and that makes sense of course, but there are some elements that look like they were directly ripped from a Brute Shot and just attached to this rifle, and I love that. Finally, we got a couple of pieces of concept art for our new multiplayer map, Behemoth. We got a brief look at it during the multiplayer preview, but here we can see one of the Forerunner bases in the deserts of Zeta Halo, as depicted by Josh Cow, and what looks to be a general wide shot of the map's location on the ring, credit to, and I'm so sorry if I butcher this, Espen Olsen Seitervik. I'd love if we could visit a place like this during the campaign, but I'm not getting my hopes up. At the very least, I do hope we get some time at the edge of a Halo ring like this. It's been a dream of mine for a while, even if it's a giant Forerunner wall and little else. I'd love to just stand on that edge, or right next to it. But that does it for this latest issue of Inside Infinite. How do you feel about the information 343 revealed and detailed in this issue? Let me know in the comments below. Stick around for the Patreon shoutout, and hopefully, I'll see you all next time in Halo Infinite. First off, I'd like to give a big thank you to our Haruspis patrons. First, there's Hope, then we have Freight, Discombobulated Sycophant, Justin Montgomery, Ada Frame, Man in the Dark, Keisha Dila, Daddy Anarchy, and finally Great Scott Productions. Thank you all for your amazing support of the channel. Next, I'd like to thank our theoretical patrons. If you'd like to see your name here or get a direct shout out, check out patreon.com/HaloCanon. You can simply support the channel or get additional benefits such as behind the scenes materials, including raw audio for upcoming videos, or even shoutouts like this. All patrons now get early access to certain videos as well, and more benefits are to come. However, your continued viewership is more than enough for me. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and maybe even subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. If you really enjoy this, turn on that notification bell so you can be among the first to see new videos when they release. But for all my fellow Canonites, keep on being awesome.